छवि जैन मैम। छवि मैम। Yes. Today we are going to discussing about MEG-10, na?
Yes,
Thank you, thank you.
will ma'am come today or not?
Yes, good evening.
Evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Good
evening,
evening, ma'am.
ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, you may start now. I think enough students had joined the class.
Yeah, I know. Just give me a few minutes time. Okay. Now I'm starting with your class. Now, students, we have seen already so many things, so many incidents and happenings. They have contributed to the making of our Indian English literature, and you already saw how finally we formed what you call typical Indian English literature. Gradually, we did that. We were able to make our own literature. Okay, so now moving ahead, we will see how canons were formed. Okay, canons means certain, in Indian English literature, how canons were formed. Now, canons means that certain particular techniques, methods of writing, okay, and then everything depends on, makes up to the canon, the location of the writer, and how that writing is being perceived. Just hold on.
मैडम नमस्कार. Madam, you can start your class, ma'am.
Sir, I had already started. I got a call from your office. Yes, what I was saying that we had already formed our canons by now, but how these canons were formed, what methodology is involved, that we are going to do today. Okay, now I will say it, I'll teach you today how this English studies in India. It was initially a very complex thing that when it landed in India, as I've already told you. Okay, so now we are going to move a little ahead and we'll see how the canon was constructed. It actually means how a particular version of literature was accepted in India, and how English got assimilated with our regional languages, and how we responded to all this will be our concern. Okay, so here we will see the meaning of literature in terms of our Indian canonical system. Okay, and then we will try to make some theoretical study of these canons, so that we construct a meaningful relation between literature and our society. That is the most important thing. How we are constructing, or how we are developing a relation between literature and our society, that will be our special concern that we are going to deal with. Okay, now we will see how differently canon has been interpreted. All right, now first we will see how we teachers, we people in the academia of English literature, how we feel and how we think about canon. That will be seeing now. Now, uh, canon actually, it encapsulates the whole range of literary, social, and our cultural practices. Okay, so canon, uh, mm, uh, is a big umbrella, you can say, under which everything is scrutinized. Now, by everything means the literary text, the society which deals with this, which influences our literary text, our culture, everything will be scanning under the umbrella of canons. Okay. Now, um, if we are mastering over this English language, then we have to, interpret with reference to what universities are saying, how the research regarding canon and the research regarding English, the acceptance of English is India has been regarded in terms of the academia and the research set by certain universities. Okay. Now, if you talk about canons, and if you see how these universities they have perceived canons, then you can see that everything or the canon has been set under the context of social setup. Okay, how our society uh, is typically different, for which we need a typically different literature. Okay, means our standard of living, our social conditions of living, our domestic life, everything that constitutes a society, how that has been involved, so that our literary texts will address all these issues very powerfully. Okay, so when you see certain canonical readings, okay, you will find that there are certain biases, because the canons set by the Western writers, or if you take British writers, the canon, the rules that they have set up for themselves will vary from our canons. Because why? Because see, canon, you can say in general term, canons are certain rules, certain specifications, certain techniques of writing. Okay, so that may not remain same if you see Britain and if you see India, because we are socially so different, we are socially so varied. All right. So so these canons vary from each other, our setup is different. So what we assume, what we our perspective will vary. So that is why, if you are setting canons, you cannot set the canons of Indian English literature in terms of British literature. Okay, are you understanding? Are you getting my point? We have to set our own canons. Canons means, I'm repeating, in very simple terms, you may say certain rules, okay, certain technicalities that is specific to our cultural and social context. Are you able to understand this, so students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is how we study our canon. So canon will, the canonical practice will vary from place to place, from location to location, okay, and from society and culture to society and culture. So this is the general, very very common meaning that I told you of of canon, and accordingly we can set our canons. Okay, so if you see English literature in a broader term, and for the past few classes I've been telling you the same thing, that study of, when you're studying English literature, means you have to go through the path of English language. Okay, so you have to learn English language. Now English language, if you are learning English language, then you have to go through the context of England, because English language originates from there. Okay, so initially you have to tread through the paths of English language, through the paths of England and England, the context of England, because English language originates from there. Okay, then the language that you learned, you took help of the British context. But when you are using it in that language, when you are using it in literature, and when you are in India, then you may not use those terms which are specifically for British culture, for British society. You have to use English, but according to your location, according to your society. Like we have parda system. So you can, in many novels you will find writers writing that the lady was covered in high parda. So this Pardha word may not have come from Britain, but we have Indianized that English. Okay, we do not say wheel, we say Pardha. So we have formulated our own English writing, our own literature. Okay, but initially we might have borrowed context from England because it is the language uh, uh, of a people of England. Okay, that is English. So while we are using English, we are using it as from the location of third world. Okay, we belong to the third world. We are not the first world people. We belong to the third world people, and we are very much aware. Okay, that this is the language of the colonizers, and we have to use this knowledge or this language accordingly. Okay, means from the location of third world, you are writing, you are using the language of the first world country. So we are very much aware of it, that we are using the language of our colonizers. Okay, so when today, if you see in India, we all of us, we cannot deny the fact that it is our second language, but you can say that not only second language, it is our official language also. Okay, and as I have been repeating you for the past few classes, that it is the language of certain strata of our society. Okay, but we do not say that learning it is completely impossible for different standards of people. It can be done, it can be learned by anyone, unless and until you have full interest upon it. Okay, so what we are doing here is, see, we are in this class, we are trying to uh, we are trying to say that we have observed English as third world people. Okay, so we are much more conscious about the language because it is not ours. Suppose when we are writing a novel or when we are speaking, we are more conscious. Like yesterday also I told you, no, sometimes we translate in our heart, that may means I, uh, going means jaungi or something like that. We translate it and we speak in English. Okay, so we are being third world people. We are much more conscious than the native speakers of English. Okay, so we are using a lot and lot of effort. It is not easy for us to master over that language. So it is very conscious for us. It is very much full of effort for us. Are you getting it? So when we are writing also, though we have Indianized it, but it is our conscious effort. Okay, and that effort may not be required for them to speak or write, but it is for us. It is an effort. Okay, and very much consciously we are using it. Okay, then yes. So with this effort, when we produce some literature, we, this effort or that this consciousness makes us to form certain canons. Okay, so certain rules, certain literary technicalities we have to take care of. So we, as Indian writers of English, have to be more aware of certain canons which will be applicable for the third world country, which will be applicable for Indians. Okay, so we have categorized that canons which will suit our purpose. Okay, so you will see that there are other literatures, they don't come under our canons, so they belong to other countries, to other locations. Okay, so um, like we are the third world writers. If we start writing, we will be named as the third world writers in English. Okay, so we cannot come under the canon of British literature, we will come under the canon of third world writers. Okay, it means that our identity does matter. It is very important when we are writing, when people are reading us, how they are reading, from which perspective they are reading. So when they are reading us, They are reading from the perspective of third world people, of those countries which were once under British rule, which were once, toiling under poverty, okay, which were to some extent, to many years they were in a degraded condition. Okay, so they will read us from that point of view, because we are the third world people. So we will be termed as, you can say, from this canonical point of view, you can say we are post-colonial literature that we people are producing, or you can call it Commonwealth literature also. Okay, Commonwealth or post-colonial literature. So these canons, they create categories. Okay, and those students, those who are those who are specializing in English, they are subject to study this differences in canon settings. Okay, and accordingly they have to understand and categorize their thoughts according to the location of different literatures. Okay, literatures means too many, literature means from different location, so I use it as a plural form. Different locations of people writing in different manner, okay, they constitute to literatures. Now, uh, first you see, when this canon is set, okay, this canon is firstly set for those English writers. Okay, so we need to see how and what does canon imply for them. Okay, because we see, uh, our canon comes down from the first world. Okay, comes down from first world to our third world. So you can say that the canonical texts are mainly um, set by the big authors of the of British literature. Okay, you can say Macaulay did it, Matthew Arnold, F.R. Lewis, T.S. Eliot, so many great writers, they have set certain canons. Okay, and with this influence of these writers, we can see how canon has been understood by us. They have set, the meaning, the definition of canon is also set by them. Okay, and how we as Indian writers, as third world people, we are following the rules of those canons set by those writers, especially Matthew Arnold, F.R. Lewis, T.S. Eliot. Okay, you must have read them in your literary criticism. So you can see that, uh, uh, you know, uh, as I was telling you in my previous classes also, that the economy of English society changed. They were mainly people whose profession was based on agriculture, but they changed from this agriculture. They changed into predominantly industrial people. Okay, those who depended mainly on industry. So you see how money was pouring in England at some point of time. I was discussing in my previous class also. They became very materialistic. Now they started bringing in wealth and then goods and commodities from different countries. So their class had risen higher, of those English people. Okay, and when the class rose higher, again, you cannot say that in England everybody became rich. No, they were class, class stratifications, but there was a privileged group of upper class. Okay, and in England they were becoming more and more powerful. Okay, and what they were doing, they were completely rejecting, disliking the other classes of people who were predominantly provincial people who used in village. Okay, so they did not like them much. They extracted work from them. They used those agricultural output for them. They used those lower class people in the industrial firms. Okay, but they maintained their aristocracy. Remember this. Only those people, those that crux of people, that cream of the society formed canons. Okay, at that time. So this is, I'm telling you the picture of 19th century England. Okay, so at that time, if you see 19th century England, you must have read also in your history of literature, there was a wide class gap. higher class were higher class, lower class were very poor. Okay, poor class. So this is how the class was divided into two parts. So likewise, education was also at the hands of the upper class. Okay, at the hands of the privileged class. Education at that time did not come down to the middle class or lower class. Okay, they received education, but not as much as the privileged class. Okay, now here you see that those aristocracy, they wanted to dominate education. Okay, and slowly in late 19th century, this lower class was also rising. They did a lot of hard work. You must have read Great Expectations. You must have seen how people are trying to struggle and find their root, their their route to upper class. You must have read that in Great Expectation. It's a big example. So here also, what I'm trying to say theoretically, that the lower class people, they struggled very hard, and slowly they were also rising to middle class. Okay, but this education, these upper class people wanted to take care to have a strong hold on the education. Okay, middle class, they felt that they should also get proper education. So they should also get little bit scope in education. It should be free for all. Okay, so higher class wanted to preserve the power. Okay, and the middle class, the lower class, which was now becoming middle class, it wanted to snatch the power from upper class. Okay, so the tussle started. So even though this middle class section, they wanted education to be flexible, but it was strongly held tight by the upper class people uh, uh, till certain point of time. Okay, so the canon here was actually formed to suit the interest of these two groups. Okay, the middle class and the upper class, but mainly for the upper class. Okay, mainly for the upper class. The canon suited for them more than middle class, because later there was a revolt, and uh, then equality was maintained later. But initially, when the canon was formed, it was mainly from the point of view of upper class. Little bit of little bit of interest was shown towards the second middle class people. So obviously, when canon is setting, then there was the friction of culture, because upper class culture was different, middle class culture was different. Okay, upper class people did not want much to address the address the issue, the culture of middle class people. So there was tussle with the setting of canons, which was finally done, which was finally settled by the critics like T.S. Eliot, F.R. Lewis, and Matthew Arnold. Okay, you must have read these theories in your UG classes, if at all you are English honors students. So you can say that the father or the maker of these canons are number one Matthew Arnold, second F.R. Lewis, then comes T.S. Eliot. But the Matthew Arnold and F.R. Lewis, they are the prominent canon makers. Okay, now when these critics saw that there is friction, because there are two cultures, one upper class culture, one middle class culture. So how to form an equilibrium? Okay, so Matthew Arnold took the challenge that he is going to say something that is going to form a balance between upper culture and lower culture. So according to him, he says that where there is the existence of God was increasingly subject to doubt, literature provided all answers. What he says, Matthew Arnold, what does he say? He says that when we are in a doubt regarding the existence of God, then you should come to literature and find the solutions to your problems. Means literature also can give you some solution to the problems of your religious speculations. Okay, so he is trying to say that literature is so rich, okay, in thoughts, in philosophies, that you may find your answers here. So Arnold says, Arnold actually Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. He observed that. Okay, he gave a good reading, a good insight into Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Uh, okay, and then he talks about after reading, after going through, or after making an in-depth study of Darwin's theory. Okay, he now tried to tell people that initially people thought that our lives are completely regulated by religion. Okay, before Darwin's theory of evolution, people were very much stuck to only religion. They tried to find answer only through religion. But Darwin gave a great shift. Okay, great shift to the thought of human mind, to the especially to those British people. So when Darwin introduced his theory, okay, then people actually those who thought that every answer will be received from from Christianity. Okay, and Christianity spoke about our birth, our suffering in life, our death, and also about afterlife. Okay, what will happen after death? So they thought that only this has to be true, other things and beyond are not true. But when the sciences emerged, okay, science emerged and science claim themselves to be the body of knowledge, and science claim that they can give only rational answers to certain questions which is still not answered. So what happened, people started now moving little bit from religion to sciences. Okay, could you get this, students, or is it going little difficult for you?
No, ma'am, it's
Yes,
going good,
ma'am.
ma'am. Understanding, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Got it, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so where I was? Yes. So slowly, slowly, people, when Darwin's theory of evolution came, now people started to change their point of view. So from very religious and superstitious people, now they started to confront science. Okay, they started to think beyond Bible. Okay, now can this be possible? They started to think that we were initially monkeys, and then we evolved and evolved and evolved, and now we look so polished human beings. And that too, due to the adaptation of our natural environment, we have evolved like this. We have to adapt. So we change our traits. Is it right? So people started being inquisitive. Okay. Whereas religion gave no scope for these kinds of ponderings. We could not be inquisitive. What is said in the Bible has to be true. Otherwise, if you question it, then you will be doing hearsay, you will be punished. Okay, it was initially like that, but now slowly slowly people started in scientific way. They started to think beyond Bible, beyond religion. They started to explore things. Okay, so one of these products of such thought was Matthew Arnold. Okay, he also started to think more and more and more about some rational features of our life. So Matthew Arnold felt that literature also, because he was a man of literature, so he thought that literature also could give direction to people, especially of that time, Victorian England, when our class was divided into mainly two lower classes, rose up little bit to a middle class, higher class were getting richer and richer. Okay, so he thought that apart from sciences, apart from religion, now people can also depend on literature, he thought. Okay, so Arnold thought that culture was, recommended as an answer of our difficulties of society. And this culture and the difficulties that is taking place in society, you can see it face to face in literature. Okay, in literature, you can find the problems with culture, you can find the difficulties that we are facing in our social lives, the solutions you can, he says, or you can see these problems, you can see face to face in literature. Okay, but he thought that if we are reading literature, we are looking at culture. Okay, so this remains very much confined to privileged class only. Okay, privileged class have got good access with literature. Okay, and they are trying to boast that their culture is the superior most. So here is the trouble with culture. So obviously those who have more access to literature, they are the major producers of literature. Are you getting it? If aristocratic class, till certain point of time, till this right and fundamental rights came in late I think 19th century, at that till that time, before these rights came in, French Revolution brought so many changes after Victorian period. You must have read that. So till this Victorian period, there was a very strict class division. So this upper class, they had good access to education. If they get good education, they could read good literature. If they could read good literature, they could only produce good literature. So if they are producing good literature, they will write from their point of view. Why will they care about other classes of the society? They will write only about their society. So here culture was in trouble because it was only in the hands of few. Okay, so Arnold says the highly instructed few and not the scantily instructed many will ever be the organ of the human race of knowledge and truth. So he says that higher instructed will control knowledge. Knowledge and truth, in the full sense of the words, are not attainable by the great mass of the human race at all. So Matthew Arnold, you can see he's worried. Okay, he's concerned. He says that whatever is happening in this society, it is happening only for the upper class society. Education and knowledge should be free. It should flow as freely as water. But what is happening? It is in the hands of the highly instructed few people. All right, they have the access, they have the power, whereas other, they are not able to attain this power. So here, by saying this, Arnold had greatly contributed to the formation of literary canon. What he did, he demarcated the society. Okay, he said that from the canon, he said that only educated few have the power and access. Okay, so the education is meant for them. Education could be produced by them. So this canon was very much biased. So the privileged group, those who are in possession of great culture, okay, they have got great power, okay, political power also. So they actually produced education and knowledge and they passed to others. So that was partial at that time. The canon fixed was very partial. So even if literature could, you know, provide answer to all the problems, it was definitely handled by few only. Okay, to the highly educated people. So those who have more economic power, they could only purchase education. So again question came, what will happen to the deprived people? Okay, but Arnold doesn't answer this properly. He doesn't answer seriously. Okay, uh, Arnold has answered only for the privileged class. So here one parameter was formed for canon production. Okay, and this formation of canon, it was controlled by privileged class only. Have you understood this? What Arnold had said, and Arnold had initiated the canon. Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you must have read this in your UG classes if you are English honor student. For those who have not, they are not UG in English, try to understand. Matthew Arnold in 19th century, he set up the canon. But canon was partial. He said that, we get answer from literature. But literature was actually, this is the bitter truth, it was only in the hands of few. So that was the difficulty. Okay. But still, we have seen that canon is now forming. Okay. But gradually, as we got into rights, these human rights, right to education for all came after French Revolution, then we started seeing free flow of education, and as a result of this you find that the romantics, the romantic poets, they have formed their whole group, and they are talking about, now they again shift the canon. They say that that poetry talks about the simplest feeling of our heart, and poetry should be written in the simplest language and could be understood by even simplest people. Okay, this was later in when we see French Revolution, and after that when Romantic period started. Okay, now moving ahead. Now, after Matthew Arnold, as I told you, we have F.R. Lewis also, and followed by T.S. Eliot. Okay, T.S. Eliot, he wrote his criticism on setting up of canon in the first half of 20th century. Okay, so with these two critics, F.R. Lewis and T.S. Eliot, we saw that these people, they circulated the idea, okay, especially on the minds of students in English universities, about the new theories about the formation of canons. So Lewis, actually F.R. Lewis, you must remember this, he belonged to lower middle class family. Okay, but T.S. Eliot was part of the aristocratic circle. Okay, but at that time it was modern period, 20th century. So though Eliot belonged to the aristocratic circle, but he no more enjoyed any power, because now equality had prevailed. So now F.R. Lewis, he tried to reformulate the canon first. Okay, and he wanted to accommodate the members of his class. Okay, because middle class were very sensitive people. So he wanted, in a very intellectual way, in a very prolific way, he wanted to include his people in also into the canon. Okay, so his view, F.R. Lewis' views remain very limited. Okay, he spoke about the liberal humanist groups in his journal called Scrutiny. Okay, so he talked about very liberal humanist groups, and he talked about only certain class of people. So F.R. Lewis' criticism was also very much limited to his class of people. Okay, Matthew Arnold spoke about his class of people. F.R. Lewis spoke about certain class of his people. Okay, so here you see that he's talking about individual goodness. Okay, he says that individual goodness should be there for everybody. Okay, and then he says that he appealed to the people who are intellectual. He said that certain liberal policy has to be allowed. Okay, and so these liberal policies will include education for every class, means irrespective of class we should all get the blessing of education. This was what this was claimed by F.R. Lewis. And he says that if equal education is provided to all, then the position of each individual will rise. So you can say, to a large extent, Lewis thinking, it is very important for the students of English academics. Okay, because he talks of middle class. And usually, if you come down to this particular period, most of us belong to middle class. Very few of us going to universities might be of upper class, but most of us are middle class. And F.R. Lewis' perspective, fits our situation, our location. Okay. Uh, so you can see that in the formation of some great canonical works, Lewis, the great tradition, this critical work, literary criticism, the great tradition is very much honored and respected in every university, because he gives a very strong hold to the middle class society. Okay, and through him, the canons of literature got included for middle class people as well. So the great literature, okay, and great fiction can also be produced by common middle class people according to F.R. Lewis. Okay, so if you read Charles Dickens, you will see Charles Dickens is not talking about high class. Charles Dickens is talking about a poor orphan boy. Okay, Pip. So in his great expectation, so Charles Dickens not only Great Expectations but other novels also, they talk about simple life. Okay, he talks about thief. He talks about a common orphan. Okay, so in this perspective, Louis F.R. Lewis' point of view fits the canons of the context in Charles Dickens' writings. Okay, so what F.R. Lewis has suggested, it fits so many other literary works, and those authors also who do not belong to aristocratic society. Charles Dickens, you see Charlotte and Emily Bronte. So all these people, they came under the umbrella of the canons set by F.R. Lewis, mainly in his book The Great Tradition. Okay. So he was the one who again gave a different angle of canon. Could you understand, students? Am I
Yes,
clear?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
okay, very good. Okay, now we'll see what is the contribution of T.S. Eliot in the formation of canon. You will see that after F.R. Lewis, Eliot gave his point of view mainly in his tradition and individual talent. Again, English UG students, you must have read this if at all you were UG in English. Tradition and the individual talent. Okay, so you can see, and while you were taught, you would have been told that it is very important work. It is one of the major literary criticism in British English. Okay, British literature. So here, T.S. Eliot actually, he is very specific to literature, and he talks about the space for himself. Okay, when he talks about tradition, so what does it mean? According to him, literary criticism would be meaningless. Okay, if you do not talk about the past. Okay, and he's also very much correct. See, now he's not talking about class. Now class is over. The matter with the class is over because he has come to the modern age now. He belongs to modern age. So he says that we already belong to modern age, but we cannot make impartial study or we cannot make impartial criticism unless we look back into past. So by tradition he means past. If you want to build certain ideas, and that should be based on the historicity of that text, of that context. Okay, so T.S. Eliot, he was able to talk about, suppose he was able to talk about powerless aristocracy, he was able to talk about powerful middle class people. Means all aristocratic people were not powerful, many of them were powerless also. So with tradition, he included everyone. Maybe he is a powerless aristocrat or he is powerful middle class. So whatever is rich, whatever is great will be included in tradition and individual talent under the umbrella of tradition, because we have to extract ideas, extract philosophies, extract thoughts from the history of criticism. Okay, so his idea was mainly constituted with tradition. All right, so he says that okay, firstly we can base our thought with history, then new works will supersede, new works will come up. Okay, but he did not give proper logical basis. Okay, he talks about literary devices. Okay, he talks about his writing, that his early poetry, uh, you know uh, it could be situated in any society, because you can see that his poetry, when you read T.S. Eliot, you will see that he is not talking about any society, any class. He's talking about the common world, that is common world, and what the people are going through, everyone. Okay, so for him, as he belonged to the modern age, his world became very complex. Okay, and he says that it is beyond our understanding. Okay, this world is very much complex. It is beyond understanding. Okay, but he doesn't leave religion. You can see Matthew Arnold is moving himself from religion to rationality. But here you see again T.S. Eliot comes back to religion. He says that you cannot avoid religion. Okay, as a Christian, you cannot avoid certain complexities. Okay, that exists and that could be solved through religious thoughts. So religion is an uh, undivided part of a modern man's existence. This was what he believed in. Okay, and he talks about in his criticism, he talks about some uh, straight path of life. Okay, although we modern people have a very difficult phase, we are passing through difficult times, modern people, but through religion we can seek to certain straight path of a life. This is what he talks about in his tradition and individual talent. And then mainly he says that what is important is, irrespective of everything, what is prominently important is the individual talent. If you have certain talent, if you have certain contributions to the canon, then your writing will be included. If you are able to produce great literature, then you are welcome to the study of canonical literature. Okay, so this was from the typical point of view of Britain, about their society, about their culture. What about us? What about India as a third world country? Okay, what about those people who are out of the English context? English, I mean European. Okay, so what about this third world people? Okay, because when we are reading English, there's always a sense of uh, we feel certain power of imperialism upon us. Okay, because we have read and we have thought so much about those colonial cultures, so that leftover is still there in our mind. So for us, English language, it performs double role. Okay, in one hand you see that there is a lot of Englishness in the writings. Okay, because uh, how to explain that? Means to some extent till now we have certain imitations of those of English language, because we as foreign learners of English we cannot become like them, like the natives. No way. If they try to learn our language, suppose they try to learn Hindi, so it will be no way that they could be like us. Okay. So when we are writing English, we have to imitate certain styles, basic styles we have to imitate. Okay. Because we can never be in our language as perfect as them, as those natives. Okay. So uh, we have to have we have to represent our culture, though the language could be borrowed from them, English language, but we have to have our own culture, which would be helpful for us to form our own canons. Okay, so uh, there is a proper connection that we have to build between English and Indian community. Okay, so we Indians, we feel literate. We feel that okay, we have read English so much that now we belong to Babu culture. Okay, see, this also helps in the contribution of formation of canons. We people, we read nothing else. We read only English literature and English literature, and we read so much and we become so proficient that we consider ourselves as the ones belonging to Babu culture. Okay, Babu, the Sahib culture. Okay. And at the same time, what we do, on one side, we consider ourselves as Babus. Okay, just like English people. And also at the same time, we try to, make two groups of the privileged English speaking people over the natives. Okay, understand? In one side we consider ourselves babus. Okay, proficient in English, very stylish. If you ask us, we answer only in English, so we are babus. Okay, and at the same time, what we do, we also make a class divide. We don't want to mix up with those people who are not as proficient like us in English. Okay, we don't want to mix with them. So the language here becomes a great barrier. Okay, we feel that the language of the native is derogatory, it is cheap. Okay, so this is the bias that we develop over time if we study too much of English. So this happened initially after independence. Okay, the proficient people thought themselves babus and they tried to subside the others. Okay, so there was again a divide based on the language. So now at that time after independence, the need was felt to do something with native languages. Okay, native languages were so badly subjugated. Okay, because this Babu culture, they formed one canonical interpretation among Indian masses. What canonical interpretation? That those who speak English are only high cultured. Those who do not speak English, they have no culture at all. This kind of interpretation was initially created by those high class English speaking people. So this was the initial canon that was formed. Though this is wrong, but this was the canon that was formed. Okay, so the native people, the native language was very much at stake. Okay, and Englishness was considered as the refined culture. Even though British have gone, even though we Indians are left, so that kind of imperial, what do you say, residue was left in the form of English language and its supremacy. Okay, so in terms of when you talk about social groups, then there was an elite group and then there was a common mass. Elite group considered that it is mastering over the English language, so it is privileged. So you can see that again, that Victorian era, how British people thought. Now this was again readapted after our independence. Okay, so this was a kind of canon that was formed initially, and slowly English was introduced in administration by literary elite. So there was a very heavy side on the part of the English speaking people. Okay, understood? Now,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, but later, later when uh, later, um, not immediately after independence, but after many years, especially when post-colonial literature was formed, and literature from the periphery was also given due recognition, then slowly this Babu culture came into rest. Okay, and then again the canons changed. So now, what is the canon? That anybody can write in English. Okay, if you're not strong in English, you can write in using your vocabularies in English. So during post-colonial era, everything got inclusive. We accepted all these differences. Okay, the differences based on regions, based on class, it was slowly accepted. Okay, okay. Now, uh, Just a second. Okay, so as I told you that always, uh, society is considered when canons are set. And as I said, when this post-colonial studies came up, it became inclusive, and canons did not remain only confined to certain strata of society. It moved. Okay, so when it moved into different societies, when English education became broader, it came to many each and every house. People wrote, or maybe those who were very proficient in their native language, so others translated for them into English language. Okay, and another thing that happened in this post-colonial writing was women were also included. There was, for many years there was the domination of males only. Slowly, women also got published. Women started writing. Women started expressing also. Okay, but you can see that immediately after independence, women were silent. What we read is only Toru that had written during colonial times. Okay, but slowly we see so many people writing. But Toru Dutt, and then we have Sarojini Naidu also, who used to write. But later we see that from male centric writing, we came to the common address by both. Women also started writing, they also started expressing. They were liked and accepted also in our Indian society. Okay, now slowly, working class women emerged. Women now were able to get as much education as any other male. Okay, so with all this freedom and rights that women were enjoying, they also got themselves included under the canons. Okay, so now you see under post-colonial, umbrella, you see that so many new areas are coming. Okay, we are accepting, we are cherishing, we are enjoying inclusivity. All right. But initially that was not done. Education for women was not that accepted in the society. Women in Indian society particularly, we were a little bit held back. Okay, so for some time, women in India had a lot of suffering, but later, when we got equal rights to education, women were encouraged to get educated. Then, women after education, they also got good knowledge of English, and they also started writing. This became a great turning point in the formation of canons, particularly in India. Now, moving on, just hold on for a second. Okay. So now you see in the contemporary times, in the recent times, you can see that there's an explosion of English. Okay. And you can see that varieties of English have been cropping up. Varieties of English means we are writing from our own location, from our own region. Okay, so our perspective is also changing accordingly. Our English is produced according to our own native languages. So you can see that English literature in all the universities, all the major universities, English remains one of the most distinct programs. Okay, you can see English literature people or English literature seats are filled with people. So it still remains one of the most distinct programs. Okay, but years back, when when our canons were formed, canons were set during the period of Matthew Arnold, or after that when during the time of Matthew Arnold, you could see that it was so much specific to certain people only. But now you see universities and English departments are flourishing year after year. Okay, so you can see that I was telling you in my initial classes also that English literature uh, became one of the sites of capitalistic economy also. People started gaining monetarily. Earlier you can see that poets and writers, they used to die out of hunger and starvation. Okay, no one acknowledged much about their writing, but now you see the institutions are gaining. You can see, as I was discussing yesterday, English medium schools are flourishing. People are earning money like anything by opening English medium schools, or you can say public schools. Okay, they are filled with students. All the seats get filled. Okay, universities also, all the seats get filled for English literature students. Okay, and we can see that our economical gain also we are having with the study of English literature. Okay, so now the language, you can see presently in the present context, language has become very functional. Okay, and great ideas are coming up. Great ideas are being expressed also through these functional languages. Okay, so you can see that the scope of English language and literature is expanding like anything. Okay, now uh, see, I just talked about all the pros, all the all the advantages of English, but there are crises also. Okay, the crisis, there are problems also that people face when you study or when you make a research in English language or literature. Okay, so now we are going to talk about those problems of what you call Englishness. Okay, now now you can see that literature has become a category. Okay, literature itself is a category. So we are studying, we are categorizing it, we are studying it, and under this category we find so many other categories, so many other canons. Okay, and now presently things have become so wide, so vast, that sometimes it is difficult for us to comprehend so many categories of literature. So and not only literature but the criticism that comes out of it also becomes so diverse, so huge bulk of literature that is coming up. It becomes very difficult for us to keep track, how to how to make proper divisions of these different categories. That is also becoming difficult. So here, in order to solve this problem of vastness, okay, there is a critic called Widdowson. Widdowson, Widdowson. What he does, he is trying to develop some certain relationship between literature and criticism. Okay, and when he forms a relation between literature and criticism, he calls it reciprocal equation. Okay, reciprocal equation. So according to Widdowson, literature has its own thought. Literature has its own space. Okay, and criticism, according to him, is usually it is usually separate from literature. Okay, criticism is separate from literature, whereas literature has its own space. It has its own ideology. It has its own thought. Okay, it has its own area. So according to Widdowson, criticism gives a methodology. Okay, criticism gives us some method. It allows us to explore some methodological devices. Okay, so that you understand different aspects of literature. Okay, if there are varieties in literature, then through criticism, you will be able to understand those aspects of literature which have got variety and vast differences in their perspectives. Okay, so Widuson here is trying to say that he's questioning that does literature constitute criticism, or is it in turn determined by critical theory? Means I'm trying to make you explain. Listen, try to understand. If you're not able to understand, please do ask me. Okay. Now he is actually trying to say, as I told you, reciprocal equation. Reciprocal means so you can consider things from either this point of view or that point of view. So what he's trying to say that is criticism formed out of literature, or is literature formed out of criticism? Okay, so does literature constitute criticism, or criticism is making us write literature? Now, could you understand what is criticism, students? Can you understand what is criticism?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it will be easy for me to
One
explain it
second,
to you.
madam.
Yes, but-
One second, madam.
okay, see, criticism means what? Criticism means suppose a literature has been formed and you are reading that literature and you are giving your criticism, your point of view, your analysis, your interpretation about that literature. Okay, now what Widosan is saying that what is happening here? Yes,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes,
Can I note it?
sorry.
Can we note it?
You may not, you may not, because whenever you will read your text, you will find it. Okay, they are there. You can just give some keywords so that when you look upon to your text, you can find it. Okay. Uh, what I was saying, yes, criticism means you are reading some part of literature and you are analyzing it. You are finding certain theories. Okay, and basing on that theories you are making your criticism. Suppose, for example, I'm telling you, suppose I'm reading a novel which talks highly about nature and preservation of nature. So I will say, from my criticism I will say that this literature uh, it comes under eco criticism. Then I will justify. Okay, so when I'm interpreting, when I'm analyzing it, that becomes the criticism. All right. So now, when literature is written, that may be followed by criticism, or sometimes criticisms are there. Basing on those criticisms, when authors are writing their novels, that also is possible. That is what Widosan is trying to say. Either ways are possible. Reciprocal equation is done when literature is written or when criticism is formed. So he's saying that literature is, in effect, being recognized as the construct of a criticism. Okay, literature is recognized as a construct of criticism, which, while assuming and proclaiming its descriptiveness, its disinterestedness, its ideological innocence, has so constituted literature as to reproduce and naturalize bourgeois ideology as literary value. Means when literature is written, sometimes the critical construction is taken into consideration by that literary person. Suppose, on the other hand, when some literature is already produced, which is followed by some critical work. Okay, so this literature is talking about such and such things, so you make a critical analysis of that work. So that is also done. So in two ways you can do. You can extract criticism out of literature. You can extract literature. You can produce literature out of criticism. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, uh, so this is what is happening with the advancement of time when we are, when we are studying this criticism and formation of canon in in the contemporary times, when the times are changing and how we are seeing criticism, that is important. Okay, now, so we all see that our studying English literature, it is a very, very, as I told you, essential category. It is very important. I think literature should be read by everyone, irrespective of whatever stream people are in. Okay, so here Widdowson, here you can find Widdowson as a critic. He is trying to underline the relationship between literature and criticism. Okay, as I told you, Widdowson is trying to develop a relationship between literature and criticism. So, according to Widdowson, criticism is a tool. Okay, it is a tool to understand the work of literature. Okay, you may note it down. It is there in your material, but just make a brief note of it, so that when you are reading from this point of view. Okay, criticism is not merely a tool. Criticism is not merely a tool to understand works. Criticism is not merely a tool to understand works of literature. Comma, it constitutes literature. It constitutes literature in the process of evaluating it. It constitutes literature in the process of evaluating it. Okay. So he says that no, if you want to understand literature, then you are looking into criticism. Okay, so that is not the only purpose of criticism, to make you understand some literature. Okay, criticism helps you to evaluate the text. Okay, suppose there is a novel and a good critic, take for example some uh, A.K. Mehrotra. Okay, he is a critic. Okay, for example. So he reads a novel of one novel of post-colonial importance, and then he writes a critique out of that novel. Okay, so when I'm reading that novel, to understand that novel properly, if I first read the critical work of Mehrotra, then maybe I'll be able to understand the novel properly. Okay, because he is helping me to understand the novel. And then also he is helping me to evaluate the novel in terms of, suppose, post-colonial theories. Have you understood, or should I repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, those who are not from English honors, it will be bit complicated for you. For others, it will be easy. See, criticism means you read a novel and then you interpret, you analyze, you understand in your in your own way. And suppose you write, suppose 2 3 paragraphs of that criticism of that novel. So those 3 2 3 paragraphs are the criticism. Suppose I am a very eminent critic. I make critical works of different novels. So when you read my critical work, not only you will be able to understand what is there in that novel, okay, but you will be you able to learn how to evaluate certain contexts from that novel. Okay, so here what Widdowson is trying to say is that you will be, it is not just an important tool for you to understand the text, but the critical work will teach you how to interpret, to analyze and evaluate that text. Okay, so yes, so this is how you read, you perceive a particular text. Oh, just hold on. Just 1 minute. Okay, so this was how we spoke about the canon and the formation of canons. Now, okay, now we will see about certain critical works, okay, and our country, how we as Indians form our criticism and how we deal with certain critical works. So we see that in our contemporary times, the critical theory that is written, okay, in India particularly, for the purpose of teaching, suppose these critical works are being produced for the purpose of teaching and learning English literature in our country, then these critical works, they actually have not only given insights to teachers, but also it gives a lot of help, lot of references to the students also. Okay, and when we encourage our students to make some critical work, we encourage them to to change their point of view from different perspectives, from different point of views they are allowed to interpret themselves. And we accept different kinds of interpretations. A novel is read, okay, and we open the class for discussion, that you can give your own idea on your own criticism. You have to evaluate that particular novel from your choice, and we encourage different answers, so that students, they understand that literature cannot be understood from particular standpoint, from particular point of view. It may be varied, it may be it may be of different perspectives. Okay, and this enables our students to open up with their creativity, to with their thought. So whenever you are reading, you are also allowed to think and to produce your own thoughts and your critical insights. Just not be very centrally thoughtful, but think from different points of view when you are reading particular text. Okay, now moving on, we will see what is the possibility of this critical work, or of the setting up of canon is concerned. What is the possibility ahead, what is the way ahead for all these problems of English. So if you have understood things properly by now, you can see that we as Indians, we have been heavily burdened uh, uh, towards the ambition of gaining proper understanding of English literature. Okay, or reproducing our own thoughts through our own literary works. So we are heavily burdened. So English in India, you can see till 19 7.
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Uh, where is going? I can't find the text.
Sorry.
I can find. Where are you?
Okay. No, you need not find and search now. Instead of that, just listen to me carefully. When you are going through your text, you'll be able to get it. Right.
I forgot what you say after some time. So I underline some points when you teach us.
Okay. Then tell me where you are with your text.
Uh, 49 page.
Uh, which one? Tell me. Tell
Uh,
the
unit 6, Unit 5.
okay.
Class 6, Unit 5. But
Unit
I can't
5.
get
Which page?
49. 49 last page of Unit 6, 5.
No, just give me the heading. What is there?
Marxism theory, how to
Okay, Marxist theory.
the
Okay.
canon criticism.
Okay, and which page did you say?
45, 46, 49.
Okay. Okay, let me check. I was going a little ahead of that. Uh,
Okay.
just hold on.
Just America and the Green.
No, no, I have to moved on from that.
Okay. Block
Just
7.
okay, just
Block
hold on.
7 पर
Let me check.
Evaluation of canons in India English writing. Okay.
Yes. And which one was that? Unit 7.
Block 7.
Okay. We have finished all this Eliot and all.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh, yes, just hold on. Just hold on. I'm trying to find that. Uh, okay, we have already seen that literature and society, movement. Yes. Yes, we have moved on with all these things. You want me to go through with that Marxist thing? Hello, are you there?
Madam?
You were asking me to explain with you that Marxist thing or what? Unit 7. You're saying Unit 7.
Marxism is crossed it in the era of Gandhi, Nehru, and
Okay, let
Terry.
me. No, 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 no. No, no. I'm continuing with that canon setting, and I was in that critical work, explanations. I have already finished with you the English theories I was going through and how to make a criticism and what is criticism, how is it helpful, how it does it help the readers. I was doing that. Okay, and because I continued with the crisis that we Indians are facing with criticism and theory, I was talking about Widosan, right?
Madam, which unit we are continuing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is Unit 7.
Okay, madam.
Unit 7.
No, not Unit 7, but
Madam, block?
uh, hold on.
Hello.
Yes.
Madam, which block?
Block 6,
This
ma'am.
block is probably 6, right?
Yes,
Block
ma'am,
6,
thank
6.
you.
no? Yes, 6. Okay. Yes. Block 6 and yes. I was in this particular part when we were talking about the, about how theory, literary theory gained perspective. I was talking about mm, how how interpretation of theory became important and how it is important for students of literature to read and understand from different points of view. All right, and then I moved on, and Now I was about to introduce with you the how the resistance and theory go side by side. Okay, so this is around your page number. I don't know which page number is this. Okay. Anyway, you just have to understand this. Later, you can search in your material because that is wasting my time also. So we will see
Ma'am, it
how
is Unit
theory.
6, page 53.
Okay. Yeah, that is probably unit 6. Now, we were doing resistance and theory. All right. Now, we see that when we are dealing with literary studies, then, we have to consider literary theory in terms of our past and also our future. Okay, and you can see that our whole world is changing so much with respect to our regionality. It is changing with respect to globalization. It is changing with respect to population. Okay, it is changing with respect to the movement of people from one country to another. Okay, so this kind of influx and outflux, people coming in, people moving out. So what is happening, our culture is also mixing up. Okay, till too many years our culture was very much homogeneous. Okay, but with this particularly with this globalization presently, we see that culture is so much changing. Okay, and then another thing responsible for this great changes is, you can say, media and electronic media. It is bringing massive change to our thoughts, to our culture. So not only direct shifting of people, but also our perspectives are shifting because of the technology and the development of media. Okay, so in this time, you can say that you cannot fix exact canons. Okay, so you can say that nowadays the canon is completely fragmented. Okay, and we are completely aware now that there is no centrality of power. Okay, power, there is nothing central now. We have completely decentralized ourselves. Okay, so this is what this Miller is trying to say. He is trying to convey that now canon and fixation of canon has become very varied. Okay, now canon depends from place to place, from region to region, from society to society. Okay, so now things have become very vast because because informations are being transmitted so quickly. Knowledge is moving so fast and so swiftly. So now you cannot say that one class of the society is powerful, another is not. Nothing. Now you can see that even lower class people, they are so knowledgeable nowadays with the help of mobile phones. Earlier, what our teacher taught was only considered as correct. Okay, but now we cannot say so, because we have now information at our fingertips. We can just browse and we can see that information can be gained apart from the teacher's yeah, contribution in the class. So in this way, according to Miller, our theories have also canons have also now become varied. It has become very complicated. It has become very complex. But still, if you are reading, if you are trying to understand certain canons, then you have to understand it with certain tenets of criticism, literary criticism. Okay, so sir, the literary criticisms very often give us insight to examine, to evaluate, to determine things from a very perfect point of view. Okay, so when the face of canon and canonical reading is changing so vastly. Okay, now canon also has become so diverse. So it is certainly criticism and critical thoughts, they are giving us proper shape, proper form to our literature. Okay, so you can see that Miller is attacking certain attitudes of the West, isn't it? Certain theoretical attitudes that they had, Miller is attacking that. Miller is now rejecting all those canons set up by the initial Western thinkers. Okay, and by that, when you read those about America and the formation of canons, then there also you see that Miller is very much uh, optimistic about the plural culture. Plural culture means anyone is invited, you can get included in any culture and you can study. Like if you see big American universities, take for example Harvard, people from all around the world are coming, so their culture has become so mixed up. How could they make their canon? Okay, so now it is very difficult to make canons, but when some literature is produced, you can have certainly a very good thought and good interpretation of that particular form of literature. That's all we can do towards the contribution of literature. Okay, how how you respond to certain text, or you are also free to reject that text, you don't think it valid or you don't think it eligible to be read, so you are very free, you are independent now to create your own space, to create your own criticism. Okay, so this was what we did today on the making of canon. I think next you have the we'll be doing with our Indian canon, making a little bit more of that. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
In your next what you call block. Now, which block is that I'll be doing tomorrow?
7.
Ma'am, block
7.
7.
And then how many more we have? Okay, fine. Fine. Now we are up with this. I think you have overall understood what is canon. Canon is the setting up of certain rules for literature. Okay. Initially, canons were fixed, but gradually we see with the mixing up of culture, with globalization, with so much of diaspora, climate change, so many factors are there. It has completely mixed up the canons. Okay. So nowadays we cannot say that there are fixed canons for certain literature. Now canons have become very much varied. Initially, they were very important. When T.S. Eliot wrote, when F.R. Lewis wrote, the society just reacted to those criticisms. Okay, but now canon fixation goes a little bit behind the time now. Okay, with so much of changing culture. So culture has to be homogeneous when you're talking about canon. Okay,
Ma'am, tomorrow what
okay.
time?
Now I think same time it is given in your syllabus, no?
No, ma'am, at 6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6 o'clock today.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow at 6.
Okay, ma'am.
Hmm. Okay, now I'm leaving. You may leave as well. Tomorrow same time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Hello.
you. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, then I'm leaving, students.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll meet tomorrow.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Madam takes 1 hour for unit 1 and 17 minutes for unit 5 and 2, 3, 4 entire.
Hello. Can anybody share the link, WhatsApp group link? Can anybody share to my WhatsApp number? Hello. हेलो
ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନମ୍ବର କୁହନ୍ତୁ ଆମେ ଆଡ୍ କରିଦେବୁ।
लिखନ୍ତୁ 99
ଆଜ୍ଞା
375
ଆଜ୍ଞା
91
ଆଜ୍ଞା
481
କଣ କହିଲେ?
डबल 9375
91
9148 ओके मैडम
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଆଡ୍ କରିଦେବେ ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ହଉ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ଓକେ
I shared the link. Please join in this link in inbox.
ଶୁଭଶ୍ରୀ Subhasri, you can listen
Yes.
me?
Okay, you send me the number. I will add him.
ମୁଁ ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପରେ ଏଇ ନମ୍ବରଟା ସେଣ୍ଡ କରୁଛି ଆପଣ ଆଡ୍ କରିଦେବେ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଶୁଭଶ୍ରୀ ଆପଣ ଆଡମିନ୍ ଅଛନ୍ତି ନା ଆପଣ ଆଡ୍ କରିଦେବେ ଏଇ ନମ୍ବରଟା ସେଣ୍ଡ କରୁଛି
ହଁ
ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପକୁ।
ଠିକ ଅଛି। Hello. Ma'am.